Let's get started. Oh, and we have a guest on the today, Lady B, coming in at the quarter hour. Yeah. So
right. 11:15, right?
Yeah. So, well, I mean, he'll call in, I guess, at the break. We'll take a break hard at 11:15, then I'll get him on the air right after the break. Is that how we want to do it?
Okay. Yes, that's good.
Yeah, great. Okay, cool. And I think we're okay with video coming up on the stream. In just a moment. Yeah, okay, cool. Hi, everybody. Give me 1 second. Okay, we'll be up in just one moment. Hi, everybody. All right. Be up in just 1 minute, guys. Hi, everybody. Good morning. Always a good time staring at the blue skies of HSRPM. This is your moment of zen.
25 seconds.
Excellent.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass. And I'm all out of bubblegum.
Things are going to start happening to me now.
Live exclusively for WCPT AM and FM in Chicago and streaming worldwide at Chicago's Progressive Talk.com. Standing up and speaking out, here's Hal Sparks.
All right, you primitive screwheads, listen up.
Welcome to the show, everybody. It has certainly been a busy, news-filled week on all fronts. Russia, certainly. And then we have, I think it's as if we have entered a national season of activism that in obviously many ways started off because of the Women's March, at the beginning of the Trump presidency, and has continued, has maintained as a functional tool during this entire process as different issues have come up, not the least of which the most recent school shooting, which, due to the nature of the kids dealing with it and the this sort of ongoing lack of action by the adults who are supposed to be handling it has entered a new phase of teenage activism, quite frankly, that is very invigorating to the process, that is incredibly impressive to see. And as we look forward to how this is affecting things, we are entering in many ways the first truly millennial phase of online activism and the functional ramifications of those very things. In so much as there's been a lot of wailing and gnashing of teeth over the years after Pulse nightclub, after Sandy Hook, after Vegas, and nothing really came of it. And now there's that worm seems to be turning. And one of the biggest things that it obviously is turning on is this this sort of Rocky hitting Drago moment, the cut above the eye on the NRA, in that they have been able to, through messaging and through fear, quite frankly, they've been able to align themselves in almost a permanent fashion with the Second Amendment, as if they are inseparable. That you cannot be for the Second Amendment and be for and against the NRA. That this is this organization and the right to bear arms itself are inherently linked, and they have benefited from that for decades. And we obviously, many in the on the progressive side of things have been asking for common sense gun laws for a very long time. None of them would interfere with law-abiding citizens, right to bear arms in defense of themselves. I suppose unless you counted defense of yourself, being able to spray machine gun fire out the window of your house at police there to serve a warrant. Because, the weapons like the AR-15 that are used, there's been a lot of conversation about the assault weapons ban coming back, which I'm for, but the sort of useless phrase around assault weapon, because technically you can assault anyone with anything. So they've used this as a way to undermine the idea of, this is just a backdoor way of getting all guns. And that's why I prefer the phrase combat weapons. There's a difference between a hunting implement and a self-defense implement, and one that is used is basically an anti-personnel mine that you can point at people. An AR-15 is a pipe bomb you can point at people and use over and over again. And so this is a dialogue that has been a long time coming. I'm glad it's finally happening. I think there's going to be a lot more balance to this conversation once it is had than many on the right fear in their paranoid fever dream driven by Alex Jones, that this is the globalists coming with their crisis actors and their fake school shootings. In an attempt to remove Americans' guns. So I don't know, who the group is that's going to come in and take over the United States, since the only real ideological threats that I suppose we have that they fear regularly, are Islamists, which I'm not quite sure where they're going to get the guns to do the takeover if they're just not as available as they were. And what would be the Russians and the Chinese? The idea that they own our debt and they're going to take us over or something, or that the Russians ideologically have a real bone to pick with the United States, and they don't seem to mind that they're basically enacting what is a soft coup at all times by forcing Donald Trump, for some reason or another, to acquiesce to their wants and needs at all times. So we're going to talk about that certainly today. We also have, in Chicago this weekend, we're going in the next segment, Jake Lewis, who is working on he's the director for the Illinois Working People's Day of Action, which is going on today. ChicagoLabor.org is the website. He's going to be coming up at the quarter hour to talk with us a little bit about today's day of action, and what you can do if you're there, where you go, what if you want to participate, and if you're not there, how you can also participate. But what their main focus is, of course, the fight for the freedom to come together in strong unions, equal pay, affordable health care, quality schools, vibrant communities, and a secure future for all of us. We'll be discussing those things after the quarter hour, and then the main stories that I also want to discuss today is this ongoing, after the Gates flip that happened. Mueller obviously has turned another one, and in turning Rick Gates on his boss, then unleashed a series of something like 20-odd new indictments against Paul Manafort, obviously in an attempt long-term to pressure him. Increasingly, it looks like Manafort is trying to reassure either Trump or someone else that he is not going to flip no matter what, either out of fear or misguided loyalty. Which he released his statement yesterday, basically calling Gates a weakling for not sticking with the plan, not forming a united front against Mueller. Of course, it's abundantly clear if you look at the financial arrangement between these two men that Gates is not the guy with sacks of money hidden in foreign countries that he can use once he leaves the country, or he goes to jail for 6 years and basically gets his mob payout for doing his time like a good boy, or good fella, I suppose I should say. And not the least of which, by the way, is it's tied to the fact that Jared Kushner and the timeline that that Kelly has put forward for getting rid of people or limiting the access to top secret information that that people in the White House are getting when they don't have they are operating on an interim clearance, meaning they cannot or will not or have not been cleared by the FBI or the Department of Justice, or quite frankly, Donald Trump himself simply taking the initiative to give clearance, which he has every ability to do. He has yet to do that. And there's an ongoing question of why. But the bigger question is, what is it that Jared Kushner has done that we are or are not aware of that is such a problem for the Department of Justice and the FBI that they cannot, in a year, they have not been able to give him clearance? It's sketchy as hell. And it ties into this. I mean, these are links and problems that have gone back over a decade to his father's legal troubles, to the purchasing of 666 Fifth Avenue, which, by the way, I greatly appreciate our Act in our super chat for giving to that, and Sandra as well, helping contribute to our fund to purchase 666 Fifth Avenue. And I know what you're thinking. You don't have enough money to buy 666 Fifth Avenue. Neither did Jared Kushner, and it didn't stop him. So hope springs eternal. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to be joined by Jake Lewis, the campaign director for Illinois Working Together, and he's going to talk to us about the Working People's Day of Action. We'll be back right after this. It's the Hal Sparks radio program, mega worldwide on WCPT Radio, Chicago's Progressive Talk, and, of course, HalSparks.tv, where you can join in the chat with us as well. 773-763-9278. We'll be back. What's happening, people? How are you today? Okay. Hey, chat room. How you guys doing? Thank you, Hal Vickery. Every little 666 helps. That's absolutely true. And thank you, Sandra, very much. I don't want to brush that off. And I think you jumped in there first before, like when I relogged in, so it doesn't show up in the super chat. So like at the bottom of the page for me. So I want you to know I saw it. And good morning, Julie. How are you? All right. Hi, Seattle Susie. You started using the William Shatner nickname for me, Sparkles. Can I be a mod? I'm your favorite. I'm your favorite Rats actor, please. No, sorry, only adults. Or those pretending, like Carl and Julie. They do a great job pretending to be adults, just like I do. How was the movie with you three guys? It was great, actually. We saw Black Panther last week, and it was terrific. Got choked up at like 6 different points. You know, there were these kind of nice moments in it. I loved very much in I think it was in
15 seconds, and we have Jake Lewis on the line.
Excellent, cool, okay. We'll talk about Black Panther in the post show today. How about that? I won't spoil it though.
This is Tom Hartman, and you're listening to the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide on Chicago's Progressive Talk, WCPT.
Welcome back to the show. So joining us right now to help us get a grip on today's Working People's Day of Action is Jake Lewis. He's the campaign director for Illinois Working Together. Jake, are you there?
I'm here, Hal. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. Glad to have you. So explain to people, at base, what the day is about and what's the main goal for the Day of Action.
Yeah, so there are 2 main goals for today. Mm-hmm. The first is 2018 is the 50th anniversary of the Memphis sanitation strike. There were 2 sanitation workers in Memphis, Tennessee, who were killed on the job, and they went on strike for the ability to form a union. They were joined by Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. That's actually why he was in Memphis shortly before he was assassinated. So part of what we're doing today is to honor and continue Dr. King's legacy. And then the second reason is because, frankly, there are CEOs and wealthy people in this country who have been rigging the economic system for years, and we are here to say no more. So 2 days from now on Monday is oral arguments in the Janice v. AFSCME case, a case that seeks to strip unions of the ability to organize in a strong and effective way. And we're trying to get people out to say, we've had enough. We're sick of it, and we're not going to sit by and watch as you continue to rig the system.
Yeah, I've always been amazed, by the way, a proud member of now 3 unions, but 2 since I was 16 years old, without the protections of which, by the way, my life and well-being would have been in danger several times because of the nature of filming stunts and doing all kinds of things. The protections that grew over time to protect people because they became a necessity were, are something that I think a lot of people take for granted. But in terms, why do you think there's this sort of been a decline in respect for unionization in the country to some degree, and why do you think I believe it's coming back? But why, what do you think people are pro-union can do to get that message out better and to make people understand the necessity?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, let's be clear about this, Hal. The attacks on working people have been coordinated by the very wealthy, by the right wing for a few decades now. I mean, this isn't just something that has happened organically over the last few years. This is a coordinated, well-funded attack on the rights of working people. And I think what you're seeing, I mean, and this is especially true in Illinois and Chicago, but it's really true all over the country, is as wages go down and more profits go to the people at the very, very top, folks are looking around and saying, well, wait a minute, what's going on here? Right. You've got the people at the absolute top getting incredibly wealthy. You've got wages stagnating. You've got attacks on healthcare. You've got attacks on workers' compensation. You've got attacks on the ability to organize, and people are fed up. So the actions that are happening today in Chicago and in over 20 cities all over the country are a response to that. They are working people saying, we deserve a voice, we need to be heard, and we're not just going to watch while our rights are stripped away from us.
And I'm glad you brought that up, by the way, because that's always been my point insofar as the need for unionization and for workers to understand that there's a coordinated effect where your board of directors on any company is an organized force that is always trying to find a way to get the most work out of the fewest people for the least amount of money at all times. And if they can do that without worrying about the environmental or physical costs on workers, they would absolutely do it. I mean, we need only look at the early parts of the 20th century, in the latter half of the 19th century, for what companies were willing to do and let be done to people. Coal miners today, in many ways, still living with the effects of the work environment that they find themselves in spite of that fact. They've been, I think, almost told a story that unionization is weak for them, and that that undermining that right. But the idea is that there is a coordinated effort by the people in whatever company you work for to find a way to drive your wages as low as possible, because in some ways that's their job, and that's also their secondary benefit, which means it should only be logical that workers should be aware of this fact and be able to form a union to as a form of pushing back on that. And there should be a balance that can be made. But the undermining of the existence of unions altogether is a way of, I think, turning that over and making it impossible for any kind of pushback to exist.
Yeah, and this isn't just something that's coming from the boardroom. I mean, these are coordinated attacks by elected officials at the local, state, and frankly, federal level. You see it here in Illinois and Chicago with our governor, Bruce Rauner, who has made it his essentially sole mission to destroy the rights of working people since before he got elected. But this is something that's happening, I mean, and this is what we're seeing next week at the Supreme Court. I mean, this is the highest court in the land that is going to be making a ruling on whether or not unions can ask for fair share fees from people who benefit from their collective bargaining. And to see those rights come under attack from the Supreme Court is astounding, but really this is what we're up against, and this is why we're out here today. That's great.
I appreciate you guys doing this, not only in terms of as a coordinated appreciation of the Memphis sanitation workers strike initially, the sort of the need for a historical view of the necessity of unionization in a modern capitalist economy at all times, as a check on that, as a balance on that.
It is the same fight. It is the same fight that Dr. King was fighting 50 years ago. That fight continues today. It continues in Chicago. It continues all around the country, and we are proud to be a part of it.
That's great. And Jack, the website for people to get information is chicagolabor.org. And then what's the schedule for you today physically? What are you out? Where are you going to be? Where's the main gathering for you guys?
So in Chicago, we've got folks at Daily Plaza. We're seeing the plaza start to fill up now. We expect the rally to kick off at about noon, so not too far away from now. If you're in the Chicago area, especially if you're close to the Loop, jump on that L or that CTA bus, come meet us.
50 West Washington, if you're putting it in your GPS, speakers. Right? 50 West Washington.
50 West Washington.
Right, put it in your GPS if you're driving down there or whatever.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, and then so starting at noon.
Join us. We're going to have a great time.
That's great. Greatly appreciate you joining us today. Here's what I would say as a I don't know how long you've been in if you've been in a union or what your experience union-wise has been in your life before you got into the activism aspect of forming us. What's your story in that regard on a personal level?
I've been working. I've been working on behalf of working people for a couple of years now through Illinois Working Together. We are a coalition co-chaired by the Illinois AFL-CIO and the Chicago Federation of Labor. But we include teachers, we include nurses, we include public sector, private sector, auto workers, UFCW, you name it, we're with them. And so I've been part of this fight for a couple of years. and before that worked for some fantastic political candidates, including Senator Tammy Duckworth. I was up in Wisconsin during the recall elections against Scott Walker. So I've been around this fight for a while now, but specifically with these unions, I've been on board for about 2 years.
That's great. And like I said, I've been lucky enough to be in a union since I was 16 years old. And I've seen around me what exists in even this, and this is, you know, with both filming and television, there's thousands upon thousands of people who would do it for free because of the attention you get and because of all the other elements. And so for a long time, movie studios and television studios took advantage of that fact, paid people very low, and the environments they worked in were cold, dangerous, and toxic. You know. And I think that points to kind of a regular idea that I think people need to understand, that most of the protections, not just at work, but also environmentally, that they experience had their roots in the labor fight. The fight for clean air in a work environment came from factory floors. And it doesn't stop. You know what? We obviously have not reached a point where people are appreciating the benefits that they have in terms of that, and just the OSHA protections that people have. We are lucky enough and privileged enough to take those for granted, but there are those who are not taking those for granted, and they are trying to wipe them away. And I will say that coordinated boardroom remark I made earlier, I think that is in collusion, to borrow a current word, with the politicians that intend, after they leave office, to benefit financially from the decisions that they made on the, as board chairs and fellows and all kinds of things of organizations that benefit big business. And that lobbyist and, executive consultant revolving door is a lot of the reason why you have a lot of these people coming in and upending protections for workers and individuals and citizens, so that when they leave, they get a golden parachute that comes later. And that's, it's part of the fight for corruption. It's obviously part of the fight for rights for everybody. So I want to thank you, by the way, Jack, for being on with us today. It's the Working People's Day of Action.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Everybody go down to Daily Plaza. You got another about a half hour to get down there, I think, before things start. And, of course, the website is chicagolabor.org. Thanks so much for being on with us today.
Thank you, Hal.
Absolutely. We got to take a break. It's the Hal Sparks Radio program, Mega Worldwide, on WCPT Radio, Chicago's Progressive Talk. We'll be back right after this. There we go. All right. That was cool. All right. Glad we actually got to do that. Thank you, Lady B, for facilitating that. That worked out well. I think we were good. Okay. We get so many messages during the time we're shooting this. And thank you guys for the super chats. I'm going to mention those on the air when we come back. So I'm going to hang out for a second. And hi, everybody. Great job. How we like guests makes us feel that much more important, like we're sitting in the audience. Yeah, it's Matt at the station set that up for us, which is great. And I want to do more of that. And obviously it's since it's just me producing this show. It's enough having to just coordinate all the materials that I'm going to discuss, much less organize and book guests as well. So one of these days will be a big grown-up show, but, Speaking of organizing my stories in a row. Hi, Mariella. What's happening, Billy? Good to see you, Denise. All right. So it's a, you know, the fascinating part of this is the whole Jared Kushner element of this thing. It's really one of the things that doesn't get, I guess, nearly as much attention. We kind of let it go because he seems harmless. My father-in-law has given me a job that I am very proud to have. You know, like, he's got this weird, like, Christopher Robin all grown up kind of a personality. And so he seems harmless. It's weird.
15 seconds.
Excellent.
And we have callers too.
Right. Okay, great. We are your production staff. Thank you, Billy. Yeah, so next time, find a way to get Jackie Schechtner on the phone for me. Chat room. I need to get every teacher a gun. Okay, Trump.
Now back to the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide, 773-763-9278.
Wait a moment. That is not the original version of Life in the Fast Lane, Lady B. Where did that come from? What is that? Who is that?
I'm trying to find it.
That's it. Yeah, I don't know. That clearly un-Eaglesy sounding. All right, so this week, obviously, the big news was the president's second in charge in his campaign flipped on his on the first in his campaign and basically gave enough information to the Mueller probe that they were able to indict Paul Manafort on 20 plus more charges in terms of his lying to prosecutors, lying about on financial forms, on when he's trying to borrow this money. And I'm sure a bunch of you saw the Rachel show, I guess last night. If you didn't, I recommend checking it out because she went through and kind of broke down this shuffle. Might have been the night before, because she went through this shuffle of, you know, Manafort desperately needing money right up to the point that he's in the Trump campaign, and then all of a sudden his money worries go away. And by the way, speaking of money worries going away, I want to thank our super chatters today. Hal Vickery, thank you for contributing $666 to our Buy 666 Fifth Avenue Fund. Billy and Fessor Frank, thank you so much for the 2018 funds from Fessor Frank, and of course Billy for the Hal Sparks Counseling Fund for GOP politicians who were obliterated by students this week. Yeah, it's amazing how they're angry that Generation Snowflake is making them feel upset. That's probably the funniest thing, is like how Laura Ingram's getting all, you know, pearl clutchy over the fact, how dare teenagers speak to me this way? I thought they were delicate snowflakes, and yet, oh goodness. So the lead up to 2016 and the concern about Russian involvement in both the Trump campaign and the Trump presidency, quite frankly, because there is no evidence that the Russian involvement in the Trump presidency and it has ended. There's nothing that says, okay, he used them to get elected, maybe, and he didn't want their help, but he got in, but now he's going to be the president for the United States. There's not any of that. They just pushed aside the election integrity official who was going to protect us from Russians messing with our electronic voting machines. They kicked him to the curb. He can't say a bad thing about Russia. As a matter of fact, the only time I've heard Russia come out of the president's mouth in any way that was in any way negative was day before yesterday when he brought up the fact that, and this has less to do with his issue with Russia and more to do with the tape that came out of Russian mercenaries, the same ones, of the same ilk that were invading Ukraine in Syria, attacking an American outpost and being obliterated. 300 dead Russian military attaches, whatever, mercenaries, getting wiped out because they attacked American forces. And I think the fact that they got attacked and they got put down, and were so open in the fact that they were put down in their communications. I know the president heard this stuff, and I think he reacted to it the way he just thinks anybody's a weakling deserves, to catch south of what he was, be south of what he's saying. So, but the rest of the time there has been, he hasn't, I don't even know how to call it bipartisan, because it was like 518-2 or something. The sanctions put on the Russian government for meddling in our election, the president hasn't even put them in place yet. He's refusing to do so, even making the case that just the idea that there might be sanctions, that should be enough. Meanwhile, by the way, he wants teachers to have to carry guns. He's in no way sanctioning the gun lobby either, I suppose, if you want some level of consistency. But he wants teachers to be able to shoot back at kids who were just in their class a couple weeks ago if they see them walking down the hallway. And not sure, by the way, if that kid brought his own gun in case some other kid had a gun and that kid was firing back against him. So we turn our high schools, middle schools, and grade schools into the Old West. But nevertheless, so the Mueller probe unpacked a lot of stuff this week, and most of it centered on the fact that Paul Manafort and Rick Gates were having real money troubles right up to the day they joined the Trump campaign. They falsified documents. They lied repeatedly to their mortgage lenders and others. They falsified tax returns. They falsified profit and loss statements. There's multiple counts of this. And so the first kind of round of relief that came, I guess, by people who are supportive of Donald Trump is that, well, this is about their unethical business practices. This has nothing to do with the campaign and nothing to do with with Donald Trump. Okay, let's be abundantly clear. One of the ways that the Russians and any other group, by the way, that wants to make use of someone in a position of power is to have blackmail on them. The other option is, of course, to have them financially strapped in such a way that they need help so desperately that they are an easy target. So in the case of Manafort and Gates, both were true. On the one hand, Manafort, his relationship with the pro-Russian Ukrainian leader and the protesters getting gunned down and all the shenanigans he was involved in while he was over there is in and of itself politically, obviously, an issue. That if the real underlying relationships he had there were really made public, it would have kept him, by the way, from getting that job with the Trump administration or the Trump campaign, and would have kept Rick Gates out of that as well. They might have been allowed to work on the DL on the side, but they absolutely would not have been able to be the face of that organization. It would have undermined where they were, the progress they were making, and they desperately needed the money that they were gonna get because of, it seems, their access to the president. That all of a sudden, they need $16 million. They're completely screwed. He's got to pay back this guy. It's getting very desperate. And then all of a sudden, this idea that, hey, in that famous email where he's saying, hey, is there a way we can use this to get whole? Can I get complete with Oleg, can he forgive some of my debt if I can get him some one-on-one meetings that might financially help him? By the way, $16 million to these Russian oligarchs is chump change. It's the entire world of Paul Manafort, but it is $50 to a street informant. It is meaningless. The pressure that he was putting on Manafort and Gates, this Russian oligarch, for this $16 million was the end of the line for Paul Manafort, and was having had a control over him that was equivalent to that. The Russian oligarch he borrowed that money from wouldn't even notice if it was gone. Billionaire. $16 million means nothing to a person like that, but what it can get for him. And loaning that money to someone you know is in a position where what they can give you back isn't the money, but something else of greater value, is exactly the purpose behind this. So you've got Manafort and Gates just up to their eyeballs in Russian debt. You've got them promising access to the president. You've got the president standing up and saying, WikiLeaks, if you can get a hold of Hillary's emails, get them to me right after, Roger Stone and Guccifer are talking. You have an open candidate, someone who goes, anything that will help me win is fair game. I don't care where it comes from or who gives it to me. This is a win at all costs circumstance. The benefits to me, if I win, are too valuable. The benefits of, quite frankly, running and losing were too valuable to Donald Trump to care about any of the ethical concerns that were involved in this. So Manafort has been involved in these sketchy Russia-related political upheavals for decades. And it made him a perfect target. It presented him in a situation where he was like, hey, is there a way we can lose this debt if I just give you access to the president, or if I make something go your way that might be questionable? And the RNC's position on Ukraine itself, the change that was involved in the RNC platform, the Republican the party changed its platform to benefit Russia. It was the only change the Trump campaign asked for. It is the only one that they got. And it came right out of Donald Trump and Paul Manafort being favorable to Russia. The news that's coming out about Manafort, one of the allegations that came forth is that and this is from NBC News, the most significant allegation is that Manafort assembled what he called a, quote, super VIP group of highly influential Europeans who could push Ukraine's agenda without any visible relationship with the Ukrainian government, according to an email obtained by Mueller. These are Manafort's emails they've gotten from multiple other sources. So understand that Manafort's claim of innocence is garbage. It's simply an assertion to know that he's going to let the mob know he's going down swinging. Because there is no way out for Paul Manafort in terms of the evidence that they have against him. None. This guy is so trapped that he is, unless he makes a deal, is either going to die in jail or spend 6, maybe 10 years, maybe 15 years in jail, be let out as an old man and given some sort of like soft parachute after the fact, or his family or friends or business associates will be protected from either financial ruin or physical violence if he goes down. This is one of those situations where if he doesn't go to jail, it is not outside the realm of how the Russians have acted towards other people to have people dusted off. That may be his reason and concern. This may be a corrupt man's act of courage to protect his own children from the kind of people who would spray radioactive poison in the face of their political enemies. But so he formed this group that would have could push the agenda without any visible relationship with the Ukrainian government. Manafort paid the politicians 2 million euros from offshore accounts in 2012 and 2013 to lobby members of Congress and other U.S. officials. It's illegal for Americans, by the way, to do that. The so-called Habsburg Group was managed by a former European chancellor who was not named in the indictment. The term chancellor is used only in a small number of countries, including Germany and Austria. The Associated Press reported last year that Mercury LLC, which was involved in the Manafort lobbying effort, employed former Australian Chancellor Alfred Gusenbauer as the expert. Gusenbauer told Austrian public radio that he'd never heard of the Habsburg Group and had met Manafort only once. I had nothing to do with the activities of Paul Manafort in Ukraine, he said. So Manafort releases this statement. I continue to maintain my evidence, or my innocence. I had hoped and expected my business colleague would have had the strength to continue the battle to prove our innocence. He said, referring to Gates. For reasons yet to surface, he chose to do otherwise. This does not alter my commitment to defend myself against the untrue piled-up charges contained in the indictments against me. He is holding out to the very last, and really the only thing he has to give up in this is Trump. And that's really Manafort's only way out. And if he does that, does it mean that he might escape some jail time but then get a Russian spritz in the face when he's out and walking around? I mean, it's a genuine concern for anybody this deeply involved with these kind of people. We got to take a break. When we come back, I want to explain why all the problems that Paul Manafort has, Jared Kushner has in spades. It is an off of the logarithmical scale how much higher the same problems are felt by Jared Kushner that are felt by Paul Manafort, that led him to give access to the Trump campaign and collude with both Russians and Donald Trump to benefit the Russian government and the rich oligarchs who are hiding and shuffling money out of that country, bleeding it dry. We'll be back. It's the Hal Sparks Radio program, Mega Worldwide, on WCPT Radio, Chicago's Progressive Talk. Okay. We'll see if Lady B, did we go to commercial? Are you there? Did I lose you in that process? It's entirely possible. We'll just talk to chat during that time. There's a lot of people in the chat room. Let's see. I'm going to go back. No one ever thinks that what will happen when we arm African-American teachers. Yeah, we know how well that will go when the police showed up. Seriously bad. Oh, yeah. So we're talking about arming teachers. There's, obviously a lot of noise made about the fact that Philando Castillo was a teacher and was armed legally, had a right to a gun, and he was killed because he was black and armed in front of the wrong cop. And he did, as far as anybody can tell, he did everything right. He told the officer he had a gun. He told him where it was. And then started to produce his ID and got killed. See, it's a story I read from the D.C. Bureau. I'm glad she hasn't gotten covered much. I can see in the sorry, Evernum. I got to roll back and see what that one is. Armed teachers and the gun manufacturers have a new market, and that's what the idea is about. Okay, yeah. So, Trump's idea that we. Oh, I see. Sorry, we're not connecting. That's why I got lost. Hold on. That's why I didn't hear Lady B take us to break, because we were already at break. That's weird. I see. Yes. Restart. Thailand. Oh, I'm connected. Can you see me, Lady B? Got back on somehow. Yeah. Let me know when we're out of break, and we'll start talking again. All right. Yeah, Army.
Okay.
Yeah, hi.
We got 45 seconds. I reset the thing.
Thank you. Yeah. As soon as you reset it, it works. So I'm glad it's not on my end. That's all I'm saying. I was just texting you to restart the tie line. That's so funny. Apparently Alexa hates the idea that we had to reconnect. Nuns I had in catechism just wore ropes around their waists. This was intimidating enough, and no one ever debated news control. Right. Cop was found not guilty. Right. I mean, anybody who sees that video is just horrified. And the NRA didn't come out to protect him, by the way. This was a lawful gun owner. He in no way benefited from this, from the Lana douches of the world. I use an old hand coffee presser. I use a French press as well, Jude. There you go. But I use it to make tea. So you didn't miss that much because the first part of the show was cut due to tech issues. I did? Oh, was that last week? Yeah. How the FBI is investigating the NRA over foreign money in connection with the Russian guy, according to McClatchy. Yeah, we're gonna deal with that as part of it too. Right after I get done with Jared.
Okay, 35 seconds now.
Oh, okay. All right. I was like, oh no, I didn't hear from her. Have we lost her again? For Pete's sake.
Yeah, we had to reset it again.
Oh no.
I don't know what's going on with that tie line, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
So they're working on another one, see if they can fix the other tie line we had for backup.
We might need to get Zephyrs or whatever that other system is. Might be time for a full switch. Wow, thanks, Robert. Holy smokes. And the help you with. Okay. Thank you. Okay. Thanks, Natalie. I've tried to get the cost of real land out of these folks, the actual dialogue, and I cannot get any numbers or details or data out of it. Right, yeah. Did the NRA defend that guard who didn't go to the school to help? Oh, no. They'll never defend somebody for not shooting someone. Buffering is bad on YouTube. All right. Good to know. Mine seems smooth. Mm-hmm. Oh, it says connecting again. Damn it. The heck? I don't... What? I don't understand. Lost you again. Oh, now I've got you. I have you for a second. I'm here. If you want to bring me on the air before we fall off again. Oh no. I can hear you, Lady B. Hopefully we're on the air. I don't know. Nope.
Okay. Yes.
Okay. Are we on the air? We good? We're live? Yes. Okay, good.
Yeah, we're back.
Okay, You're good. Good grief. Sorry if that what that drop off was. Every time I'm like, oh, it's completely quiet. I must be still in a break. And then I look up and like it's disconnected. So I'm like, no. By the way, thank you for scrambling. You can hear Lady B in the background trying to make sure our tie line works and all that kind of stuff. Hey, tie line people, maybe give us a hand. All right. And I want to thank, by the way, Natalie in our chat room and Robert Picula, who gave both gave big donations so that we can buy 666 Fifth Avenue and perhaps a new tie line. So I want to talk about I can't take my eyes off the connection light right now to make sure that we're on. So the idea that Paul Manafort is special or separate because this is just about his money problems and his manipulation of to get himself out of a monetary hole, which by the way was solved once he started working for the Trump Organization for free, which oddly enough, if you'll recall, Donald Trump said about Jared this week. He works for free. He doesn't make a thing. He works for free. As if, by the way, these billionaires should need a small, whatever the fee that they're getting. As if we don't all know that there's a benefit to working in and having this influence that almost any billionaire would just do for 5 years just for the secondary benefit. I mean, it's absurd. So Manafort, $16 million in the hole, desperate to solve it, tries to do so by getting get the Russians off his back by offering up options for them to have access to Donald Trump. Access, by the way, that Don Jr. is, would love to give, that Jared Kushner helps arrange, and that Donald Trump himself welcomes. One needs to ask, by the way, why they needed a particular, even Manafort to do this. The campaign was so open to the idea in general. But in this one, John Harwood was on Alex Witt on MSNBC, and he goes, what do the recent developments tell you about how Robert Mueller is putting all the pieces together in the puzzle? And Harwood said, well, Alex, we don't know as a legal matter about collusion, but what we do know is that we had a campaign chairman who'd been indirectly on Russia's payroll through his work with Yanukovych in Ukraine, and on and on until he goes, and we know that Russian hacking helped him win the election. So the reason he had this was because he was financially in the hole and they had this over him. He owed this money to a Russian oligarch. They were putting pressure on him. That pressure went off once he got access or whatever. That's $16 million. Jared Kushner's company is in the hole for 666 Fifth Avenue, which we are aiming to build here on the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide, for the new, centralized, evil tower that I will run my media conglomerate out of. To the tune of they bought it at the bottom of the market for $1.8 billion. With arguments, by the way, all around that it was worth 1.6 at the height of the market and is technically worth more as a hole in the ground with the building missing. The cost of removing the building and replacing it with a building that they could actually make actual money on. Well, after the break, I'm going to tell you this $1.61 billion number you've been hearing, that's a third of it. It's a third of what Kushner's family company owns on this building. One building alone. We'll be back. It's the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide. Thanks, Robert. Really appreciate that. Thank you, Natalie. Thank you, Fessor Frank. Thank you, Billy. Thank you, Hal Vickery. Thank you, Sandra. You guys are awesome. Somehow we ended up talking about pizza this week again. Being kidnapped and held in a van with someone's secret fantasy. Okay, don't threaten me with a good time. What in the world are you guys talking about? It'll be gun safes in schools, and if the school isn't broken into, the teachers will clock in, get their guns in holsters, check them, and then go to class. Yeah, then every school's a military academy. That's a great idea. The entire Trump family got so over their heads with money laundering and promoting their own false wealth, they became prime targets for Russia, and now the Russia probably knows all our classified info. Yeah, exactly. It's unbelievable how okay they are with all this kind of stuff. Yeah. I mean, they're yelling lock her up about Hillary Clinton because they think she had secrets on her server that people who shouldn't have access to classified information might see. That's the entire Trump White House right now. Wow. Let's see. So 3 words as to why Trump gave Putin everything he wants. PP tape. What about how great these teenage kids are on TV and marching their great? I completely agree. Have you heard about Gail lately? Just wondering, and sorry for disturbance. You didn't disturb me, and no, I haven't heard much about him lately. So there you go. Rick Gates maybe pleading guilty for. I'm going to be the keeper at the gate at the top of 666 Fifth Avenue. Absolutely, Carter. You'll have to stand up there with a hammer, and no one can enter from the heliport without without letting letting them through. And Carl, you're absolutely right. Gates, Manafort, Kushner, Trump. Yeah, and I also think Don Jr. factors in there. Mm-hmm. And these children that you spit on as they try and change their world, right, are immune to your consultations. If politicians were held to the same standards as regular government employees in terms of how they handle classified materials, quite like politicians be jailed, those we like and dislike. Well, I think they would just take it a lot more seriously, certainly. Hal, I think a cash crunch is coming soon for Trump, Jared. I agree. Well, the entire note is due on 666 Fifth Avenue next February. Wait. Yeah, 2019, I think it is. I have to look that up again. Because yeah. I keep looking up, like, am I connected? By the way, I love this footage of that they keep showing of Manafort being annoyed by cameras and bonking his head getting into his car. Like they show him go across the street and get into that car in the far lane, and when he gets inside, he hits his head really hard on it. It's like so embarrassing. Man. Ridiculous. Can't stand the thought of anything gross. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks for reminding us, Julie. Yeah. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. Always helps us out. Search boycott NRA on the Twitter for updates. I don't have to search it. I posted with it about an hour ago. Mysterious fire will break out at 666 before the note becomes due. Well, that's interesting, and I'll talk to about that a bit. 7,000, really? We're at 7,000 now? Sweet. Oh man, really? It says connecting again. What the hell? Crazy. What's happening? These people. I'm not there yet, Lady B. It says connecting. We'll see. All right, I'm picking. This is ridiculous. The funny thing is that she should just grab audio from the YouTube because they never have a problem. It's so very weird. Let's see. Let's solve this, shall we? Oh, hold on. Fixing one thing. Excuse me for a second, kids, for leaning across camera. That's completely uncouth. But you get a good shot of my my Trivium shirt right now, so that's nicer. so everybody knows. There you go. And I don't need to update that right now. Thank you very much. General settings, Wi-Fi. We'll switch. I'm switching to a better source just in case it's me. 3, 2, 1. There we go. Try this again. Logging in and connecting. Hopefully they've got it up and running. We'll see. Oh, hello. Check there. Lady B, how are you? All right.
I'm hanging in there.
All right, there you are.
Oh my God.
Oh my gosh. What she's had to deal with, ladies and gentlemen. The long-suffering Lady B dealing with our audio problems today. Are we on? Have we come back? Am I live?
In 10 seconds.
Excellent.
I'm going to come back.
Cool. Thanks, Amos. It's all part of my hit.
And you're back.
Right on. Welcome back to the House Sparks Radio program, Mega Worldwide. All audio issues aside, I want a big round of applause for Lady B scrambling and handling today. You're a blessing to the show. We love and adore you, and you work far harder to make the show happen than you should have to. I want you to know how much you are appreciated on all fronts, just like right out of the gate. Okay, so what I was talking about before the break and the collapse of audio, where the Russians started interfering with our signal, I'm just going to start pushing that as a conspiracy theory just for fun, is that Paul Manafort's money problems that led him to promise or offer access to the Trump campaign, and then Gates ultimately continuing to work during the inaugural to raise a bunch of money, by the way, through the inaugural fund that mysteriously went a bunch of weird places. Twice as much money raised for the inaugural than the Obama one, which is the biggest one in history. Obviously, granted, the Trump inaugural went for a lot of ground tarp that went unused. That being said, the idea that Paul Manafort was in a world of hurt financially, and then ultimately, Gates has flipped on him. He's promising to hold true for this. He will not plead guilty. He's reaffirmed that. I think eventually they will get around to getting him to do precisely that. However, is that the Jared Kushner's company, Kushner Co., whatever their little thing, and another company which I don't know that people hear that much about, which I think is called Volcnado, something like that. They are co-owners in the 666 Fifth Avenue building. That Kushner's company, under the direction, by the way, of Jared Kushner's dad, who went to jail for trying to blackmail his brother-in-law with because he hired a hooker to have sex with him and then filmed it and then was going to hold that against him. Went to jail for 2 years for doing that. Insisted on buying this building when everybody in his company told him not to because it was a financial mistake. Bought it at $1.6 billion, $1.8 billion, right before the crash. Literally, if he had waited a year, he could have probably gotten it for a third less and wouldn't be underwater. But he insisted on buying this. It had a 30% vacancy rate. It is an office building. Its only value that they see is being able to turn it into condos and apartments, and a few floors of hotels, and a 5-floor shopping mall. This is the renovations that they want to do to turn it into a useful property that they can actually make money off of. A lot of noise has been made about how the Kushner family is up to their nose in debt on this thing, and that $1.61 billion comes due next year. There are a couple of standout details that seem to get left off this all the time, and it bugs me every time I hear this story. One is, not only do they have a $1.6 billion loan that is underwater on this piece of property, they have a $4 billion construction loan that is outstanding on this building that isn't even worth $1.6 billion anymore. $4 billion. This is the entire root of the Kushner Company's financial holdings collapse once this eats itself. The note comes due next February 2019. Now, one of the reasons why Manafort working for free and Gates working for free on the Trump campaign is so sketchy is because these gentlemen owed a lot of money to Russian oligarchs and apparently, according to the emails that have been put forward by the Mueller investigation, were offering, as a way of assuaging some of that debt, access to and control and direction over the Trump campaign and the candidate himself and movement of the issues. And in many ways acting as the golf tee for some of the things that Trump wanted to do for Russia himself, whatever his financial or blackmail relationships may or may not be with Russia. The Manafort and Gates were running this campaign for free. So this week, Trump brings up the fact that Jared Kushner works for free, that he doesn't benefit from doing this. It's just something he's doing out of the goodness of his heart. And then we find out, by way of this, that not only has Jared Kushner not gotten past his interim clearance, he's not qualified for the clearance to top secret info that he has had for over a year, and that he may lose it if Trump does not act to grant him it regardless. Not only that, but over the course of the next year, his financial burden that may become more worrisome as far as his trustworthiness with secret information gets worse. And that can't, you're looking at what Paul Manafort is willing to do to get out from under $16 million worth of debt. What is Jared Kushner and Ivanka Trump and Don Jr. and that whole crowd comfortable with getting out from under what their debt is? Because in terms of just one building, Jared Kushner's family's liability in this circumstance is somewhere in the order of $5+ billion, which would just the claiming of all their other properties wouldn't cover. There's not enough money in their other holdings to cover this note. So what do you give in exchange when you're working for free? And understand this, if you're listening to the sound of my voice, you have more money than Jared Kushner does. In an argument, that's what Rosie O'Donnell got in trouble for saying about Donald Trump, is that, even Donald Trump said he was walking by a homeless guy at one point saying that guy has more money than I do because they don't have a liquid asset anywhere. It is one of the reasons why they keep, charging the RNC $40,000 for rent, why they charge the Secret Service top dollar for everything, why they keep going to Trump properties so that the government basically has to bail these companies out, these properties out while Trump is visiting them. Because the amount of money it takes that the government has to pay to use the facilities around that, if they won't pay top dollar for it, they can't even be there. So it guarantees their nut is covered. So Jared Kushner's financial liability in this circumstance is hundreds of times higher than Paul Manafort's, and Paul Manafort will go down swinging for Trump, Russia, and the former Ukrainian leaders that he was protecting. We got to take a break, but I want you to think about this during the break. Kushner's family company owes $1.6 billion in hard dollars with this other company. It's Vornado Realty Trust that owns the other half of this, by the way. And understand something. They own half of the debt in this situation. They are positioned that if the Kushner family defaults, they are only responsible for half the debt and yet own the deed for it, it seems. And so they get all the benefits of this property and none of the harsher liabilities of it. They can level it, get their own loan, start from scratch, build a building, and so basically they're in a safety zone. It is because the Kushner company got out over its skis so pitifully in this purchase that they are as liable in this circumstance as they are. The building loses $24 million a year just in it because of its vacancy rate. $1.2 billion in the mortgage is due February 2019. The Kushners want to knock it down and turn it into a different building or whatever. Zaha Hadid, the designer, designed this years ago, but they have $4 billion to do this, but they're never going to actually get access to that. They couldn't sell it to the Chinese because it got too much attention. I have a great relationship with President Xi, okay? Became too much of an issue for them. We got to take a break. When we come back, more of this and some of your calls. 773-763-9278. We'll be right back. That's right. Amos. Thank you so much, Amos. That's right. You are better off than Jared Kushner right now. You can always take great heart in that. You know, if you've only got like a house payment and a car payment, you're still in, you know, financially, you're in way better shape. You know, the leverage that rich people are able to get to stay rich or stay pretending to be rich for so long is, I mean, that is what the Trump business model is keeping up appearances. Amos definitely has a better speaking voice. That's right. So, yeah. We'll we'll grab these calls after this. If I'm staying connected, Lady B, are we still connected? I'm just making sure. Okay, we seem good. I get so nervous about it now. Oof. I love how the article in Vanity Fair about this is Jared Kushner's family is screwed and it's all Boy Wonder's fault. Somehow I want you to end up with this. I totally want this building. Boy Wonder, yeah. Two kinds of rich people, those who hoard actual wealth and those who pretend to be rich by hoarding fooled creditors. Yeah. Sheriff's sale on the building shall be pretty interesting, yeah. Please do Jared's voice again now, yeah. My father-in-law, I could not be prouder.
Hello?
Yes, we're here.
You scared me.
Oh.
10 seconds.
Why did I scare you? Did I drop off, or did you just think it was the real Jared?
No, I thought you did drop off.
Oh.
I thought you dropped off.
No, I'm here. Okay. I'm good.
Now back to the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide, 773-763-9278.
Okay, let's be abundantly clear about something, too. And, you know, I always am reticent to do the whole Obama, can you imagine comparisons with both Obama or Hillary Clinton? Can you imagine if Obama's son-in-law, you know, Sasha's husband, owns 666 Fifth Avenue, like the most elite demonic address you could possibly have. It's like something out of a joke form of, like, you know, Devil May Cry Monopoly. Imagining that the so-called Kenyan, you know, president who doesn't belong, if his son-in-law owned 666, like the right wing, the Pat Robertsons of the world would never let this go. This would be a constant. They'd be doing stand-ups in front of this on Fox News every single day. And if not only they own it, but they're deeply in debt to foreign powers over this, right? Sketchy money laundering connections, all these, like, it is absurd on all fronts. Just that on its face, that they owned a building named 666 Fifth Avenue for all the New York elite talk. Never mind the fact that they hired a TV host who, from New York to be president, because of whatever. That absurdity. But understand that not only do they own this building, not only are they deeply in debt, not only just the owning of the building, but the actual construction loan on it's deeply in debt. Not only that, but Charles Kushner, Jared's father, went to jail for, setting up his brother-in-law with a hooker and filming it, and then, blackmailing him, and went to jail got 2 years for blackmail. And you know who the prosecutor was who put Charles Kushner behind bars was? Chris Christie. Chris Christie was the U.S. attorney who was in charge of this particular case, and is later, courting Donald Trump, the father-in-law of the guy, who he put his dad in jail while operating his own, shutting down the bridges in his own state as governor. Like the amount of corruption that's just like cartoonish level corruption. This is not even slick. This is, it is stunning to me that this is something that the right just always lets go. That Chris Christie, carrying out, political action against his, in a very Russian style against his political enemies. Well, by the way, the story, the New York Times story, years ago, and I went back and looked it up, that ran on Charles Kushner when he got arrested, when he went to jail, when Chris Christie put Jared Kushner's dad in jail for blackmailing his uncle. The story was that the headline was Democratic donor receives 2-year prison sentence. Okay, so imagine, if you will, that Sasha is married to a guy who is the owner of 666 Fifth Avenue, and is deeply in debt, up to his eyeballs in foreign money laundering, and his dad was a donor to Clinton, Gore, Hillary Clinton. The outrage. It's an absurdity that these guys would and yet they continue to let this slide, which just goes to show you that this is, they talk about like Trump derangement syndrome because we just won't let Trump be Trump, and he's just, speaking off the cuff, and if he brings us to the brink of nuclear war, it's just, hey man, he's a straight shooter, no pun intended. The idea that they offered, Laura Ingraham coming out, teenagers, shouldn't be talking that way about a sitting senator, and the defense of the things that were said about Barack Obama while he was in office. Do you think Laura Ingraham ever came to his defense? It's absurd, the amount of hypocrisy. And I don't think you ever heard from any Democrats that I know that if teenagers, we might have questioned why they were saying it, but not that they had the right to say it. A lot of us are often confused by the red state hatred of federal government, since those states wouldn't exist in any manageable way without federal funds from blue states filtered to them. Often it's confusing to deal with that, listen to that come out of somebody. But at the same time, I would never question the right of a teenager to say those things because they want to say them. That's amazing to me. Anyways, I think we got a couple minutes before I can take the break. So let me grab one of the calls because I know we've got some on the line, and while we've got a connection, I want to at least try to make those happen.
Yeah, we have Dave from Sacramento.
Excellent. Hey, Dave, how are you? Welcome.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm good.
How you doing?
Good. Go ahead.
Remember that, and I was right, that these people are going to get voted out, and I was right.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I was right.
Right.
Now, we're going after the NRA financially.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the next thing we're going to hit them in the pocketbooks because they're the ones who support these politicians, and lobbyists are the ones that get paid by all these major corporations.
Right.
Like Cabela, Walmart, Bastrop, the best pro shops.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we heard of North American and Allied Van Lines, and also the Avis, Hertz Enterprise, all these Wyndham Hotels, Motel 6, including FedEx, who are the supporters of all these people for the NRA.
Right.
Now, because of the hype that's going on right now, not much of the hype, but all these people are posting these, stop the NRA and all that kind of stuff, and all the social media. All these companies are scared that the customers are basically pulling out from Motel 6, and they're basically not shipping from FedEx anymore because they're scared that these customers are backing out. First National Bank, people are basically closing their account, going elsewhere to do business, and they're scared that that they don't. That if you go ahead and support the NRA, give these people blood money, that's what's going to happen. And now, and people say, well, the NRA is pretty strong. They're really hard to fight. No, you hit them by their pocketbook, and they're scared. Without money, they can't do anything. They basically can't. They basically can't do much with money.
Right.
And even though they got about 6 million or 6 million people that have guns and all this kind of stuff, and they're a supporter and all this kind of stuff, money means a lot, and it does a lot for a lot of companies.
Sure.
Especially for the NRA.
Right.
And with these companies, they figure, hey, we're not going to be affiliated with these people. They're going to discontinue they're basically with all the pressure from National Bank Omaha, which calls them the largest private-owned bank holding. They basically said they're not going to renew their contract with the trade groups to the NRA, handing them branded credit cards. And these people that now what's going to happen is that now, and what about Rick? What about the Governor Rick, who basically took millions of dollars from the NRA? What's going on with him? What's going on with this guy?
He's running for Senate.
He's running for Senate against Nelson. So he's basically made himself good. And something, to be honest with you, it's an election year. Oh, yeah, he's going to make some changes. Let me tell you something, Rick, buddy. Since you didn't show up to the CNN town hall meeting, you're still not going to be elected.
Right.
And Rubio, you had to try to voting machines and the ballot box. It's going to happen. There's more people. The millennials going to vote these people out. So let's get ready.
Appreciate it.
This year is your year.
Yep.
This is your day. And you're not going to be voted in. See you later.
Yeah. Appreciate the call. We'll be back right after this. The House Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide on WCPT Radio, Chicago's Progressive Talk.
Driving, honey, I've done everything for you. You've done nothing for me.
Right on. I just feel like I have to stare at my my Thailand connection thing. Can't stop lying. How are you still connected, or did we just get pulled into Tron? Yeah, that's the digitizing aspect of this whole thing. Yeah, it's the year to invest in a full. I'm up for a show, and I can't talk about it yet because I don't know what the deal is. But I'm up for a show that may require me to be away from home more. And if I'm going to be doing the show where this would take place, it's going to take a lot more tech than it does already. So, yeah, it's gonna be a tall order. So I'm definitely gonna have to upgrade this year to make that possible. They can defend its allies in Syria by blasting threat Russia for Assad. 2, Russia left alone as it continues to hack and lie for the. Yeah, that's because the military isn't listening to Trump at all. He's his one big direction was do what you're gonna do, and they've taken him at his word. So yeah, I'm gonna be on Celebrity Apprentice. That's right. I'm the new host of this. Is the celebrity and people will be doing this, and the hosting of this show. You need good hosts, hosting people. Yeah, such a weird thing. Yeah, this whole thing with Kushner is just going to get worse. Like there's no easy way out for this. I mean, all they're going to get is a clearer and clearer window into the circumstance where they're just kind of done.
"30 seconds.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay, 1 second. Almost back.
Now back to the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide, 77278.
So Rick Gates is pleading guilty to 2 charges. One of them is lying to federal prosecutors. This is how they get you. It's super easy, especially if early on you're expecting to have some cover. You're not completely forthcoming. They tape the interview. If you talk to a Fed, it's the same as being under oath in those circumstances. Under the idea that it's just answering a couple questions, but no, you lied. That's sorry. Is conspiracy against the United States. Which interestingly enough holds like what a 4-year light, I think, for something with such a heavy sounding phrase, but it's true. So Rick Gates, campaign aide, pleads guilty in Mueller inquiry and will cooperate. Former top advisor to Donald J. Trump's presidential campaign has agreed to cooperate with a special 2016 election after pleading guilty on Friday to financial fraud and lying to investigators. The advisor, Rick Gates, is a longtime political consultant who once served Mr. Trump's deputy campaign manager. So understand this. Two guy at Donald Trump's campaign has just pled guilty to conspiracy. This is outside the realm of even, wow, James, thank you so much for appreciate that. James Etling in our, helping us to purchase 666 Fifth Avenue and solve our audio problems all in one fell swoop. That these guys, I don't even understand how they can continue this storyline. Obviously, the Republicans in Congress have gotten really quiet over the last couple NRA was getting to kind of drop out of this. But the Jim Jordans of the world, it's got to try as they might to come out and say, you know, there's no collusion, there's no nothing between the campaign and the Russians, because you literally have Russian funds through a Ukrainian channel getting into the pocket of Paul Manafort that led him to getting in debt, saying, can we undo my debt by me getting you access to the president, them saying yes, and then all of a sudden the president is changing the RNC platform to benefit Russia in the Ukraine debacle, and Jared is getting, and 30 other people that we know of, 120 operating without full clearance for over a year in this White House, getting access to top secret information, getting access to the president's daily brief, things they are not legally able to get. And now it turns out that Jared won't even get to do this because he's so tied into the Mueller probe. He won't even qualify to clear to get security clearance until the Mueller probe is over. Which, unless their plan to have Ivanka be president is in full swing, means he won't be in the White House. We now have $6,666,000,000 in the fund. We should still hold out for a better deal February 2019. I completely agree. Thank you for contributing to our buy 666 Fifth Avenue fund on the super chat at houseparks.com. Let's .tv. Let's grab another caller, Lady B. I know we have one, and I think I'm still on the line, so I'm going to operate as if.
Yes.
Cool.
We have Robert from Florida.
Great. Hey, Robert. Welcome.
Hey. Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes, absolutely. Go ahead.
Hello.
Hi. Hello. We hear you.
How are you, Hal?
I'm good.
Hey. Good. I've got a few points, and I'll make them quick, and I want to hear what you have to say. About the NRA.
Yeah.
The image of the NRA was like Mike Tyson and Buster Holyfield. You didn't think they'd ever go down, but they're going down.
Right.
And they went down hard.
Evander.
And I think it's a steady momentum of people recognizing that they can be beaten. I mean, your previous caller was saying, you know, some things. And I think what happened is the image of Grandpa in the woods with a rifle and the binoculars is not the NRA anymore. You know, it's the reality we should call it the NARA, you know, the National Assault Rifles Association. And I guarantee if you did that, very, very few people would want to put their bumper sticker or their little thing on their window, you know, and I think more people would walk away from that.
Well, that's because a lot of Republicans would think that was a reference to La Raza or something. They'd go, NARA, that sounds foreign. I'm not going to be a part of anything that sounds vaguely foreign.
You're talking about Manafort.
Yeah.
Now, Manafort is a gangster. Basically, he knows reality of life. His best place is in jail. His best place is to say, prove me guilty. And then if I'm guilty, I'll do the time.
Yeah.
Because he knows he can't go out in the streets. He's done.
Yeah.
You know? And if he did, you know, the Russians are not like the people I used to know. You know, they'll go after your kids.
Yeah.
You know, so
I agree.
He's in danger, you know. So his best bet is to say nothing and say, "Prove me guilty."
Yep.
You know?
I agree.
I wanted to say another thing about the school shooting.
Yeah. Well,
you know, they want to bring teachers with guns, and I went to Catholic Parochial High School, and I just want to say, the nuns that I went to school with, if they had guns, I'd be dead by homecoming. I would be like friendly fired the first time someone dropped the textbook. Boom, Lamonaco's dead. Oh, what happened? Well, you know, we got nervous.
Yeah, right.
Call his parents.
Yeah, somebody. Yeah, we had a call-in active shooter. Right. A call-in active shooter drill could drive people, if they're not properly trained, to open fire. And then again, a kid comes in with a hidden gun, shoots a teacher he knows has a gun, has two guns. Yeah. I mean, there's too many ways around this, where the idea is that our goal overall should always be to keep guns off of school campuses, period, and, you know, by however measure we are going to do that. And one of the ways you do that is when you have people who are making threats, against the school, they shouldn't be allowed to have their guns anymore. You come and take them away. And and the idea that somebody who has, because the idea that you have an anti-personnel weapon in a civil society is insanity. Let's just understand that the people, the preppers, and the people who believe that at some point they're going to have to, Ruby Ridge or Waco their way out of a situation, and that they believe that the government, their best redress against the government is shooting cops or National Guardsmen or soldiers when they see them coming up the driveway, and that they're going to need as many weapons as possible to do that. And the illusion that they would even survive that circumstance is the goofy part. But this kind of fantasy Western idea that they're going to go down swinging, fighting, watering the tree of liberty with the blood of tyrants and in the form of state troopers and U.S. Marshals serving a warrant for somebody selling guns illegally on the internet or at gun shows or straw man purchases, which is the kind of people who are open, or the Clive and Bundys of the world who are using long-range rifles and putting women in front of their crowds to try and provoke a fight so that they can shoot patrol officers in the head from a long way off. This is their idea of democracy. And so the idea that they would be able to make decisions like that is madness. I appreciate the call, always. Great to hear from you. And I want to, it made me think that, this is Trump talking about, his defense.
Your Chief of Staff, General Kelly, has recommended ending the practice of granting interim security clearances to members of the Trump administration. Yeah. If that proceeds, would you be willing to grant a waiver to Jared Kushner, one of your senior advisors?
Well, Jared's done an outstanding job. I think he's been treated very unfairly. He's a high-quality person. He works for nothing, just so, nobody ever reports that, but he gets zero. He doesn't get a salary, nor does Ivanka, who's now in South Korea, long trip, representing her country, and we cannot get a better representative. In fact, the First Lady, Melania, was telling me what a great impression she made this morning when she.
Let you have the illusion that they actually talk.
Jared is truly outstanding. He was very successful when he was in the private sector. He's working on peace in the Middle East and some other small and very easy deals. They've always said peace in the Middle East, peace between the Palestinians and Israel is the toughest deal of any deal there is. How come I've heard this all my life? That as a former deal maker, although now you could say maybe I'm more of a deal maker than ever before. You
Get
have
on with it.
As president to do it right.
Will you or will you not give him an interim clearance?
The hardest deal to make of any kind is between the Israelis and the Palestinians. We're actually making great headway.
No, you're not.
Jerusalem was the right thing to do. We took that off the table. But Jared Kushner is right in the middle of that. And he's an extraordinary deal maker. And if he does that, that will be an incredible accomplishment and a very important thing for our country. So General Kelly, who's doing a terrific job, by the way, is right in the middle of that. We inherited a system that's broken. It's a system where many people have it's taken months and months and months to get many people that do not have a complex financial, complicated financials. They don't have that, and it's still taken months. It's a broken system.
He thinks Jared doesn't have complicated
and it shouldn't
financials.
take this long. You know how many people are on that list? People with not a problem in the world. So that'll be
Apparently
up to
not.
General Kelly. General Kelly respects Jared a lot, and General Kelly will make that call. I won't make that call. I will let the general, who's right here, make that call. But Jared's doing some very important things for our country. He gets paid zero. Ivanka, by the way, gets paid zero. She gave up a very good and
Again,
very
with that, they work
strong,
for free.
solid, big
Manafort
business
worked on the campaign for
in
free.
order to
We now know that he was doing that as a quid pro quo to help the Russians.
Families, and she wanted to help women. She said, Dad, I want to go to Washington. I want to help women. And I said,
Why would you want to do that? That's just ridiculous. So the idea that Jared Kushner, the reason he can't get clearance, according to the president, is he should already have it because it's not like he has complicated financial disclosure stuff. He's amended his form after lying on it, adding 40 connections to foreigners that he said didn't exist previously. He's amended his his forms, for clearance 4 times. He's omitted those things, which is the same as lying on those forms. You couldn't have a more complicated financial background than Jared Kushner right now. $5.6 billion minimum in debt right now. And he's working for free for the government, getting, we got to take a break. When we come back, more of your calls, 773-763-9278. The man is getting the president's daily brief and top secret information. Why was Hillary's server such a problem? Because hackers might have access to that information, right? Because people who aren't qualified to have a top secret clearance might have access to that. P.S. Jared Kushner. We'll be back. Yeah. Oh, Alex Vander Zwaan. We didn't even get to talk about Alex Vander Zwaan, which is in and of himself just, it's so funny. Yeah, Alex Vander Zwaan speaks, 4 languages? I wonder which one he lied to investigators in. I'm going to go with English, but... Hey, Ginger, how are you? And, I've been looking up at the wrong time, so I didn't see if you haven't joined until now, so hi. This Monday, 01... Okay, sorry, 30 seconds?
Sorry. Yeah, 30 seconds and you still have 4 callers.
Wow, okay.
Welcome back to the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide. It's now time for the happy ending.
Welcome back. We got part of the happy ending this week, of course, is that we've got 4 callers on the line. So let's get to those folks that've been hanging on for quite a while. Who do we have there, Lady B?
We have Angie.
Excellent. Hey, Angie.
Oh.
It's you. Welcome.
Hey,
yeah.
Hal, first of all, thanks for making my day by pointing out that I most likely have more money than Jared Kushner.
Yeah, you do. I guarantee it.
Second, okay, it is very, very perplexing that Trump never says a bad thing about Russia or Putin.
Mm-hmm.
And he didn't impose the additional sanctions on Russia. Okay, what if he was hypnotized during his time in Russia?
Oh, so we're like Manchurian Candidate style?
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, has anyone talked about that? But how do we prove this?
I see. Here's the thing. I think these people walk around hypnotized. You know what they're hypnotized by? Gold. If you look at Trump's furniture, if you look at how these people live, there is a certain point where the accumulation of more and more is the only purpose for living, and that's your only way to guarantee your status and your safety. And after a while, you know, that if they're hypnotized by anything, it's the protection racket of being that kind of rich.
And, right. And I do agree with everything you said about, you know, most likely, you know, they've got things to blackmail him with, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
So,
no question.
Yeah. But anyway, I just wanted to get that out there.
I appreciate
Enjoy
it.
your show. Listen every Saturday.
I appreciate it. Thanks very much. We'll eventually work out our please call in again. We you know, we'll work out our audio in the future where it's more consistent one of these days. I may involve me having to move back to Chicago, which is not a bad thing, to make sure that it's always good. So that's my retirement plan. After, if anybody read the, you know, my post on Twitter, Mayor of Los Angeles, Governor of Illinois, President of the United States, King of Uranus. And these are my political goals over the next 25 years. Let's grab another caller, Lady B. Who do we have?
We have David from Kaufman Estate.
Excellent. Hey, David, welcome.
Hey, Al. At the beginning of the show, you were talking about union stuff. And on Monday, American union leaders are about to find out if they were right to seriously oppose Neil Gorsuch's nomination for the Supreme Court.
Right.
As pivotal, potentially devastating vote against organized labor. It's turning out he's holding the deciding vote on a case to be argued February 26th. That the court is being asked to jettison the 41-year-old ruling that allows unions to collect so-called fair share fees from employees who are not union members.
Mm-hmm.
And the unions represent more than 5 million government workers in 24 states and District of Columbia who could be affected by the outcome. And this case was taken up on the same issue in 2016, and the justices had split 4-4.
Right.
It's something, you know, that we should keep an eye on.
Yeah, no question. I mean, it is one of the primary, like, it really sticks in my craw, the non-voters and the butter emails crowd that didn't recognize the deep ramifications of handing over the Supreme Court to the likes of Donald Trump and his ilk. You know, the irony that he wants to build a wall which Mexico will pay for / build, that if he had his druthers and no limitations, he would pay for with non-union Mexican workers. You know, he's got a history of using non-union workers on his properties as well, and getting busted for that. But if he could get rid of those limitations, drive unions into the dark ages, and basically squeeze the working class so hard that they have to work for table scraps, he will. And that's part of that. And Gorsuch is cut from that cloth. So you're absolutely right. You know, and that's why.
And I picked up on this earlier, you know, last week, you know, on this already. So it's kind of been under the wire, you know, with all of the other events that are going on. But
that's right. Well, today, you know,
very, very serious for union members.
That's right. You know? There's the working people's.
Let me get off. There's somebody else waiting.
Yeah, there is. I appreciate the call. So working days, the Working People's Day of Action is today. They got together at noon a little bit ago in Daly Plaza. If you feel like heading down there, I'm sure there's information, festivities, and what have you, you know, after the fact. If you missed the march itself and you can't get down till later, you can always go to chicagolabor.org, of course, and support your local union. If you're in one, join the board, help become more involved in the actual mechanics of your own union. And if you're not, think about joining one, or find a way that you can, you know, if it's appropriate to your type of work. You know, even if it's not, if you're in a business where unionization doesn't even make sense to your the way you work, support those workers that do. Is, I think, one of the great things that you can do if you want to do some effort. You don't have to be, you know, in the service union to help them. to give them a leg up, to give them, a tweet now and then, to contribute to their political action committees when you believe in their cause. So there's that. Let me we got time, I think, for one more caller. Who do we have, Lady B?
We have Ivan.
Oh, right on. Hey, Ivan.
Hey, Al, let me be quick.
Yeah.
Trump absurdly thinks the teachers will all be Annie Oakley or Wild Bill Hickok.
Right.
When a gun loon starts blasting away with an assault weapon.
Mm-hmm.
He ridiculed that cop in Florida who hid. But guess who ran and hid when he had a chance to take on the Viet Cong bad guys with guns?
Right.
The draft dodger in chief.
Mm-hmm. Captain Bone Spurs.
Bone Spurs himself.
Right. That's right.
So it's completely absurd.
Yeah. Well,
the chaos that
they're always all for outsourcing the pain to other people. And the idea, by the way, that let's look at most of the school shooters for you. Okay, let's talk about arming teachers as a solution to mass shooting. Okay, first of all, what would that have done in Vegas or Pulse? Nothing. We cannot act as if the solution is only, okay, well, we'll protect our schools, but, if you're in a mall, the hell with you, is the idea. It's an absurdity. So it's the access to these kind of guns and the necessity for a lot of these people to find out that if you need to shoot more than 10 bullets in a circumstance, more than likely, unless you're law enforcement, you're the bad guy. And shooting back at law enforcement coming your way is not something you should look forward to with some sort of bizarre Michigan malicious type zeal. The best thing that can come from a gun is the worst day of your life. If you ever use a gun in self-defense and you are put in a situation where you have to take a life to do that, that's not, while your strength and composure in that moment may be something that feels like it is deserving of accolades at the time, it is a painful and sad experience in the lives of anybody who has to go through it. Police officers have a hard time dealing with the fact that they've shot a suspect and they know they were in the right in those circumstances. The idea that you're just going to hand out guns and that people are going to blaze away at a stranger, not knowing if that person is actually the active shooter or another licensed gun owner who has decided to take the law into their hands in the mall or the nightclub or the high school or the middle school or the grade school or the daycare center. Grow up. It's time for us to be a civilized society. We don't need this stuff anymore. We'll be back next week. Thank you guys so much for listening. We'll have the post show right now. Thank you so much, Lady B. See you next time, everybody. All right, post-show time. Only can do a short one this week because I have to race off in a half an hour. Yeah, half hour. Yeah, bulletproof backpacks. And, we're going to get to the point, by the way, where thanks, Brad. I appreciate that. And thank you to everybody again in starting off with Act early on. Sandra and Hal Vickery and Billy and Fessor Frink and Natalie and Robert, Amos, James, Billy and Julie. And Julie, I thanks so much. I saw that as I was sort of finishing a thought. Oh, and thank you, Donna. Wow. We need super chat on iPad and iPhone, especially. You had to get to the bed to come to my laptop. Thanks, Donna, for getting up and crossing the room to do that. That's really awesome. Yeah, the idea that, and I get to drop my headphones now because I don't have it. Thank you so much, Lady B. We'll see you next time. Wonderful. All right, now we can hang up and I don't have to worry so much about the connection. It's funny to me that, anymore, we'll get occasional YouTube problems, but most of them I can handle, especially audio-wise. It shouldn't be a problem anymore, but man. Yeah. So there's a couple of things I wanted to talk about in the post show today, not the least of which is to see if there's a so the Gates thing and the Manafort thing I think is like a trial balloon for the Don Jr. Jared mess. It's almost like it creates thanks, Jamie. That's awesome. Appreciate that. That, you know, basically we're seeing the outline, the pencil drawing of going after Jared and Trump in the going after Manafort and Gates kind of stuff. That's that, you know, if that makes sense to you guys. And for me, that we'll probably see that start to play out over the next 5 months. I'm guessing by June, we're gonna see a big flourish of stuff right now. We'll see how there's a bit of a chess move, seeing how the Republicans react to Gates and Manafort going down. I think they're seeing if they can flip Manafort. They've got obviously a fallback plan, with others. Manafort and Gates sounds like a law firm. Well, Manafort, Gates, and was it Stone? Was Roger Stone? Yeah, I want to say Manafort, Gates, Stone, or whatever. Was that their PR firm? Let's see. What was their organization? I think that's right, wasn't it? They work with Oleg Deripaska. Let's see. Rolling business case. Now they don't list the name of it, but I'm pretty sure that's what it is. 4 weeks. That's what you think, Edward? Cheers, Al Vickery. Thank you for sticking around. They're not firm. Okay. All we need to do is dress everyone in school in that nice Kevlar like Keanu Reeves and John. Yeah, absolutely. Everybody. Billy Hutchins, Black Panther. Yeah, I'm curious. Like, it would almost be cool to do a separate show about Black Panther if you guys want to talk about it at some point after everybody's seen it. Maybe later this week. I don't know. Does everybody need another week to go see it? Has everybody seen Black Panther, by the way, in this? I like the best thing that you can come from a gun is the worst day of your life. Yeah, it's true. Having to use a gun to kill someone to save your own life is a series of bad circumstances that all led to awful. 20 years from now. Yeah. At the bowling center, just started a game with an converted 710, but still managed to finish it with a clean 215. Wow. Rocky Mountain Mike. Yes, a Black Panther show. Awesome. Wakanda forever. All right. No how? What? I missed the second out. I see. Oh, because you were bowling. I see. Haven't seen it yet? Okay. So Ginger hasn't seen it. Amos hasn't seen it. Julie hasn't seen it. Okay, so we'll give you guys at least another week. See if you can manage to do it. It's a longish movie. There was a 4-hour cut that was given to the composer, allegedly. So I don't know if they're going to release it at some point, but hey, brother, saw it Thursday night before opening night. Sent you a tweet that night. Yeah, so damn good. Wakanda forever. Yeah, I liked it a lot. There were a couple of moments that I literally kind of teared up about it. There's a clear storyline. This is not a spoiler in any way, but there's the story. Oof, right? There's a real MLK versus Malcolm X storyline that plays up very big. It was very present in the Professor Xavier Magneto storylines as well. So it's not like Marvel is new to that idea. The question, what is the proper response to violence against your people or yourself? There's all sorts of alt-right fever dreams about it. One that it's on the one hand that it's this black nationalist movie, and how horrifying to hear black people speak like you speak must make these assholes panic like crazy. But the idea that it's a walled city that doesn't let non-Wakandans in is actually reinforcement for the Trump wall concept, you know, and they've been talking about that a bunch because of Wakanda's effectively I forget what the name it was, and Ayn Rand and Atlas Shrugged, they had that village in the mountains. If you guys, I don't know if anybody who's, let's see, I'll have to look it up. Atlas Shrugged Mountain City, or whatever it was. Galt's, yeah. Galt's Gulch? Really? Is that what it was called? That's ridiculous. It's on Conservapedia, Boise. But Wakanda takes down their wall at the end in a speech at the UN appears to be aimed at Trump and other white nationalists. Yeah, well, it says we build bridges, not barriers, or whatever. They still don't let people in. What they do is they venture out into the world with their technology. They're going to give it as a gift, but they're not letting people in. So, Galt's Gulch, also known as Mulligan's Valley or Atlantis, was the secluded community founded by Midas Mulligan and composed entirely of participants in the Great Strike of Men of the Mind called on by John Galt. Yeah, so it's effectively for the classical lands here for the U.S. that it was sort of a version of that. It sounds like a SpaceX planet, right? Spider-Man 3 sucked so bad I don't watch Marvel movies, period. I recommend Captain America First Avenger a lot. I've really grown to love that movie over a while. I mean, I like the other ones too. I have my problems with Civil War. You know, it's one of those things where you got so many A-list actors playing your heroes that you don't have any villains left over. They don't have any villain money left. That just sounds third world. Which one? Yeah, Lauren does again. Hey, no spoilers. I'm not. It's, you know, yeah, we'll try and keep that to a minimum, you know, but it's worth discussing is the point. You know, there's a lot of politically to unpack, and it's not like the movie is unaware that there is a lot politically to unpack. I've never seen a Marvel movie, but will be trying more. All right, Jennifer, that's interesting because you know, here's what I will say, you know, and this is an experience I had on Queer as Folk, is that at the time we were doing Queer as Folk, DC was not interested in us using DC characters on the walls of Michael's apartment or his comic book shop when gay stuff was happening. That if there was any kissing going on or men holding hands, we were not supposed to show any of that stuff, and it got weird and snippy. After some blowback, that's, I think, about the time we had the gay Green Lantern character showed up, had some, I don't doubt that it had a little bit to do with that pushback. Marvel, on the other hand, could not have been more accepting from the minute we asked. So they were like, yeah, if you want to have a poster on the wall and there's gay people making love in the foreground, that's life. Okay. They were great about it. Captain America Winter Soldier is a great callback to spy thrillers too. That's right. And it's an interesting one about you know, brotherhood and all that, you know. See, that makes me happy. Yeah. Yeah. Paradise Island for Wonder Woman. Yeah. I'm reading back through your chats on this or whatever. So, yeah, Marvel was great. And it's nice to know that because I was always a Marvel fan. I've always loved Spider-Man. Always loved The Punisher. Conan, when they put out the Conan comic books when I was a kid, those were my favorites as well. Didn't really get into the X-Men thing because it was too sprawling for me, but I was very much into Wolverine and Punisher. How do you think Robert Mueller will be examining the money flowing from Russia to political parties or candidates soon? I think, Edward, that they're clamping down on that quite a bit, and there's a lot more scrutiny on it. It's going to be much harder to do. And if you have any of these situations in the coming cycle where these companies come into existence in 24 hours, you know, give $1 million to a candidate or a party and then dismantle in the same day, it's going to get a lot more scrutiny than it used to. I fell asleep watching Wonder Woman last weekend, as you do. How do you think? Yeah. I like the first Captain America. So do I, and I didn't at first, and I love it now. I used to collect all the X-Men related titles way too much. Yeah, love Ghost Rider. Yeah, Ghost Rider is one of those like unappreciated storylines. The guy who, you know, sells his soul to the devil to save his daughter and then buys his way out of hell by claiming evil, like capturing evil on the earth, is great, you know. So I repeated my previous question. Who is responsible for granting White House security clearances? Anyone know? Technically, the FBI and the Justice Department don't grant it. They advise on whether or not you're allowed to. The president and his chief of staff technically sign the final waiver based on their recommendation. So yeah, the president and the chief of staff can do it though. The chief of staff can actually do that, but he does it based on the idea that he doesn't have the sole ability to do it. So he does it on if the DOJ, the Department of Justice, and the or the AG or the FBI, if they sign off on it, he basically just goes okay, and it's a rubber stamp from the chief of staff. If they don't sign off on it, the president does it or can do it. Yes, he can also. The president can also say someone doesn't deserve it if they. He can say he won't if the FBI says it's okay that they have it too. Technically, both directions, but no one would ever do that. And ultimately, you're going to see that Trump at some point is going to start giving out anybody Trump says can have clearance that hasn't earned it through the normal channels. You can expect that he will be pardoning them at some point in the future. The Watchmen had lesbian relationships right out front. This is true. Yeah. Technically, 45 could override the recommendations, but it is saying he won't, but Kelly can if he wants to. Now, he's giving Kelly permission to do it. It's effectively the same thing. So he is overriding it. No more Volbrokeback episodes yet. DC Comics had a limited series called Camelot 3000, which Lancelot is reincarnated in the body of a female. Trump may have quietly already given Kushner clearance. Yeah, I think that's what he did, Tom. I think he's given Kelly the right to, you know, he was like, sign off on them, let them in. I think they should be let in or whatever. But then Kelly also knows that his entire future rests on whether or not these people are trustworthy. And if he doesn't, the problem is Kelly really has a problem with Kushner in that if Kushner ends up not being trustworthy, if Kushner ends up giving out secrets, and it's found that he was in debt to the Russians or in debt to the Chinese or somebody, and he gave them information that he had access to in exchange for leniency on loans or protection or them to invest in his properties to help him buy his way out of these things, General Kelly is the one that will be historically responsible for that. And Trump is making sure that's the case by saying what he said. Yeah. That's right, Jennifer. They'll throw him under the bus in a heartbeat. They do not, they do not care. He has to have an interim clearance on file for him to be anywhere near classified info. That's right. Most of them get it right away with the idea that they'll eventually be able to get clearance. And so there's, you know, over the years, it's kind of understood that, yeah, of course, you know, anybody the president would hire, he's not going to hire the president. Why would the president hire somebody who doesn't deserve clearance in any way? So and the answer is because he's in debt to these same countries is why. I doubt Trump would be bound by public info inquiries. His constitutional authority is pretty vast. That's right. It is taking 2 years for clearances. That's right, Julie. And it'll be worse for Kushner because the Mueller probe will have to finish before he can be cleared of it. And I don't see the Mueller probe in its current state and what they're going afterwards and who they've got working for them. I don't see them getting to a point that clears Jared. Like, that's just goofy. I do clearances for my people. Yeah. So you know, Julie, you know more about this than the rest of us do in some ways, certainly. Chris Claremont's original intent for Nightcrawler's parents was Destiny as his mother and Mystique morphing into a male to be his biological father back in the early 80s. Well, that's because Mystique isn't male or female. Mystique is effectively a neo-mutated human-ish life form. Because once you start getting into she's a female who morphs into a male, then you go, then she's not a female really. That's always the question. He won't pass the test. I agree, Julie. Yeah. That's why low taxes is a canard, because the taxes could be at zero and they'd still rather underpay a Chinese kid than pay an American a living wage. That's right. Yeah. Russia. Yes. I got a security check every time I come home. My wife, she's working for the FBI. It's not Mystique. That's funny. Mystique is just hot. I agree. Julie's got cred. This is clear. Yeah, so Trump was born without the shame gene, but got twice the normal amount of douchebag gene. Other than gene being spelled Gene, yeah. Are you coming to Chicago in March? Yes, I think so, Ted. We're doing the event we're going to do in Chicago is in May, the one that's actually for the show. But I will more than likely be following up, spending part of my time with Cam on spring break in Chicago. So there you go. Spider-Man taking all that crap from the newspaper boss, and he was a stringer, not even an employee. Right. Everything else totally believable. Yeah. I have a security clearance. I don't know if that's credit or not. I don't have Russia in my back pocket. Right. Hal gave me clearance, but I have to wait for my clearance patch. Only clearance you need. Right. That's true. Chicago in May, nothing like a little Hal in the springtime. Is Jean Grey the Phoenix? That's right. Yeah. Well, Gene Simmons took his name from Gene Simmons, who spelled it the other way. So, because Gene Simmons from Kiss, his real name is Chaim Fitz. He was born in, is it Hadith? Where was it? Yeah, in Israel. He's an Israeli immigrant. Yeah, it's funny because I would love to have I almost feel like we need to have a movie viewing, like one of those MST3K moments where we all get together and watch a movie. No, it wasn't Tel Aviv. Let's see. Sal, if you get this new gig, do they shoot on Saturdays? I don't think so, but the problem is it may shoot in a foreign country where Saturdays are a different day. So we'll see, at least for a little bit. It might be one of those things where I'm having a separate YouTube show with you guys and then uploading my show later. I won't be in next Saturday. Check out colleges for my daughter. We're going to check out. Aw. Then come to my apartment. Yeah. Oh, that's cool. Lunch. The Lady B's going to be out in LA next weekend. That's great. No, the May date is the 26th. It's a Saturday. I believe. Let me check. Just making sure. Yeah, May 26th is the show we will be doing in Chicago. We're finding a venue now. California Theater 3000. Who's manning the phones? Oh, yeah. Chris will be manning the phones next week. Are you on your own without Lady B? Are you afraid? Yes, very. Although she's going to be out here, so I might just have her set her up on a mic and have her sit here with me, so you can just watch how I scramble to get stuff working. I wouldn't make her work on this. I'm just going to take her to lunch when she's here. Yeah, May 26th will be the Chicago event. And we're looking for, I need to find a restaurant that serves German food like Jäger Schnitzel. So good. Julian Howell, heads up. I will be out next weekend. I have to work our company's international conference. Thank you. Appreciate that, Carl. I'm talking about celebrating our birthdays in Chicago in May. Yeah, there we go. Yep, Julie can hold down the fort. We'll be good. May 26th, afternoon, the evening. It will be all ages. It will be during the show. So it will be 11 to 1 in Chicago. We'll have a little, I'm pretty sure it'll be at a pizza joint, knowing Chicago and knowing WCPT and how we've had, where they usually have their events. It's wherever they had the Bill Press, not Bill Press, who was it? Norman Goldman had an event there recently or whatever. There's a pizza place that they have it at. And I think it's free pizza for everybody, for fans of the show. I will be bringing plenty of blue patches for those who haven't gotten theirs yet or will get in. Buying a ticket home and eat the alligator. I think that'd be fun. You can get up to Wisconsin again in the same time, Julie. It's a good weekend for that. It'd be nice weather-wise. Camden's birthday is the following week, so I'll be after I leave Chicago. We'll be celebrating his birthday with his kid friends. It's gonna be a good time. Coming for my blue patch. Excellent, Denise. You get a patch and you get a patch. No. Quit, Julie. May 26th in Chicago. May 26th in Chicago. Saturday show like normal. In regular Chicago time, which is 11 to 1, and we'll have pizza and hang out afterwards. We'll have the show during. So more than likely, people will have to get there around, 10:30 Chicago time. We'll have a little bit of meet and greet. Sandra, if you haven't gotten a patch yet, just send me your email. Go to houseparks.com. Go to the contact page. In the contact page, just put in give me your address, and put in the body of the text, just write patch. So I know, so when I'm doing a search, I can find which messages are about that and get it out to you. Had my first headline gig last Thursday, 15 minutes being featured as a fan open mic, but it was still in that. Right on, King David Lane. All right. Good on you. Ain't nothing to it but to do it. Birthday is May 22nd. They know what I mean. It's Cam's birthday. Oh, yes. Yes, it's Cam's birthday is May 29th. That's right. So, sorry, I misunderstood. Julie, yeah. Is blue patch as good as a known traveler number when going through airport security? I don't have to remove my shoes. I'll do everything I can to get the blue patch aligned with that. See if I can get a blue patch special on like Clear or TSA Pre. Like a discount. But then I think I've been told that a lot, Julie. I'm going to see if at some point I'll get a version of the patch that has like a not a chip, but a visual read thing that's visibly you can't see it with the human eye, but if you scan it, you can see a code in it that lets people know you're on the up and up. Yeah. Your wife's birthday is May 24th. Well, right on, Carl. Al Sparks and Jason Judy are the stand-ups who most influenced my decision to start doing stand-up, who encouraged me, so thanks. Absolutely, King David Lane. I'm excited to see you grow. Go for it, man. The QR code and black light. That's a great idea. Stealthy. Black light, blue patches. Right. Lemon juice QR code. That's right. It'll all be using a pig pen cipher and just straight up Masonic, just to freak everybody out. Hal and Jason, both stand-up men and an awesome stand-ups. Oh, thank you, Donna. How's Illuminati branch here? Just scan my patch. I'm one of us, right? Yeah, I gotta look into that, like those RFID chip kind of things in it or whatever. But yeah, I'll figure out something. I don't want everybody to have to feel like, and it should have a thing on it that lifts up. That's got it should have a code on it, like the patch. Like it should be like a cover on it that you can't read the RFID patch unless you lift it up. You know what I mean? That'd be awesome. I just realized this year would be my 30th alumni. I'm old. Wow. Yeah, mine, as would mine, right? Yeah. Want my eyes to turn red just for a moment. Norm was Via Veneto. Oh, Via Veneto. Yeah, that might be the place, Jennifer. But we'll see. They're looking into it right now. Because I might also do it at the center on Halstead, the LGBT center, which is got a little theater there. and there's a Whole Foods attached to it, and and then the Chicago Diner is just down the street, which I love. Vegan food in Chicago. The Chicago Diner is the best. It's my 50th high school reunion this year. Unbelievable! Wow, integral, impressive. That would be cooler. I think so. This year, my 40th high school reunion. Right on, Charles. Yeah. Okay. Chicago Diner. Well, at the very least, we will meet at the Chicago Diner for footage. Let's just understand that that's going to be part of the deal. We're gonna I think we need we'll just walk over there afterwards and take the place over. Well, you won't be able to meet everyone, Julie, because we're pretty spread out. There's also a bunch in the, but you'll get to meet the Chicago listeners, which in many ways, I'll get to meet a lot of them for the first time. My May 26th on my calendar. Right on, Amos. The Diner, also a great movie, right? Could always have a meetup and watch Hal remotely before he comes to town. This is true. Amos, get there for the both of us, right? Why'd you say it? People will come. I agree, Julie. There's a very strong chance we might have to have like a convention, have a progressive convention for that weekend or whatever. It's not like we won't have, some issue will be on everyone's mind at that point. We are commandeering this diner for free hot dogs. Northern Illinois, Southern Wisconsin. I'm 2 hours away from Chi-Town. Oh, you're covered, Brett. Then yeah. That's right. If Julie's there, it's official. Needs to be in the diner near the transit train system. Yeah, that whole area is near the trains. It's walking distance from Belmont L stop, super easy. It's not too bad. That's true. Julie, they built a small base field in the cornfield. So we have a couple of Giordano's locations in Vegas now, but Lou Malnati's would be better. All right, we're gonna start a Giordano's versus Lou Malnati's fight in the chat room. Amos has it covered like a blanket. Yeah. Oh yeah, Jennifer's got the easiest one. She's in Evanston. She can just hop on at Howard and take the L down. And Tom, you're in Canada. You have to come from another country, but then so does Julie, and she's further away. Finally getting a Portillo's here, as am I. All right. It would be from the Halstead Center. Yeah, the idea that might be one of the locations. I don't know for sure. They're looking that up, but the date is definitely locked. Yeah. And I'll see if I can schedule some stand-up like the night before or something like that. If people are going to be coming in, might as well. Yeah. No, hot dog. Yeah, no, oh, crap. It's 11:30. Okay, I got to go. I got to wrap, guys, because I got to be in my car in 3 minutes to get where I'm going. But I will keep you guys posted on that. We'll come up with an event name for it as we get closer to it. But they're going to let me know. CPT is going to let me know what the place is for it. Within the next couple weeks. Hopefully, we should be able to nail it down. And you guys, I can't wait to see all the people who can make it there, all the ones who can't. I appreciate you guys even. We'll have some of you call in. We should set up some. Oh, it'd be great. We should set up some iPads, and then people can call in and FaceTime on those iPads, and just so they can be there in robot form when you're there. So. Carl, yeah, have a great weekend in Orlando next week, Carl. And we'll see you in a couple weeks. Have passport, will travel. That's right. Well, you're Canadian. You have a passport you actually use. So we'll see you next time, you guys. You're awesome. Bye-bye. See ya. Bye, folks.